we'll give you a full report, and we'll hold your questions till we get to the end, and we'll probably answer most of them as we go along. John Quayle, meteorologist.
Thank you, Governor.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Irma made landfall at 9:10 this morning along the lower Florida Keys as a Category 4 hurricane. As of 1 p.m., Irma was approaching the southwest Florida coast, still with winds of 130 miles per hour. In terms of the forecast, there's little change in terms of the overall forecast track, with Irma still expected to track along the west coast of Florida through tonight, then across southwest Georgia on Monday. The tropical storm force winds currently extend about 190 miles northeast of the center of the storm, and those wind fields are actually expected to expand as the storm moves to the north, reaching maybe as far out as 270 miles to the northeast of the center of the storm as it moves into southwest Georgia. That's because of this expanding wind field that we're going to have some impacts here in the state of South Carolina, despite the storm being a good distance away. For the impacts, in terms of coastal flooding and storm surge, we're already seeing strong northeast winds maintaining elevated water levels, and that's going to support moderate to major coastal flooding along the southern and central coast, and minor flooding along the northern coast at times of high tide today and tonight. Life-threatening storm surge inundation is expected along the central and southern coast Monday, especially between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., when inundation values of up to 4 to 6 feet above typically dry ground could occur. A storm surge warning is therefore in effect from Charleston County south. Non-life-threatening inundation up to 3 feet is expected for the northern portion of the coast Monday and Monday night. Storm surge inundation and rough surf could damage coastal properties, roads, and dunes, and severe beach erosion could occur. For the winds, tropical storm force wind gusts are expected to develop tonight and persist through Tuesday across much of the state, with the strongest winds south and west of I-26 and near the coast, where wind gusts up to about 65 miles per hour could occur. And tropical storm and high wind warnings will take effect due to those winds. Across central and southern portions of the state, a flash flood watch is now in effect for 3 to 6 inches of rainfall, with isolated amounts up to 8 inches possible, and 2 to 4 inches of rain is expected elsewhere to the north. These rainfall totals are down just a bit, and because of that, only minor river flooding is now expected later in the week, mainly on the Santee River near Jamestown. And there's also the threat for isolated tornadoes, and that would be more of a concern Monday and Monday night. That's all I have, Governor.
Thank you. So as you heard, on those barrier islands, nothing has changed. We still have the evacuation orders in effect, and there will be high winds. There'll be a lot of rain all over the state, depending where you're located. And also, of course, we don't expect the storm to change. It always could. We're not expecting it to, but we know we're going to have rains, a lot of water, and we're going to have some high winds, particularly on the coast in those the 3 counties that we mentioned earlier. That is Jasper, Colleton, and Beaufort. The team today consists, we've been giving you a count of the officers and personnel on board in various places at this station. As of right now, we have 579 National Guardsmen on duty. We have 100 troopers assisting local law enforcement. Of course, you have all your county law enforcement, county and city law enforcement out. We have 89 state guardsmen on duty. We have 121 SLED, probation, pardon, and parole, and Department of Natural Resources agents on duty. We have 11 shelters open, and 264 evacuees are in those shelters as of noon today. Our total open shelters capacity is 7,127. So we have plenty of room, including plenty of room for our friends coming up from Georgia and Florida. Although, as mentioned yesterday, the upper coast of South Carolina is fairly clear, and they have plenty of hotel rooms in various parts of the state. Flooding and wind. As you can tell, this is a serious storm. Fortunately, it's not hitting us like we thought it might, but it is still hitting us, and it will hit hard. And you can see on the video monitor, we don't have the winds up there now. Well, yes, they are. You see, they're all over the state, and they're going. This is as of now. It'll be higher than that, and you see there they're up to 54, 55 miles an hour down on the South Carolina coast, and they go all across the state, and of course they will go higher as we go forward. They will extend well into South Carolina from the center of the storm, which is very, very wide. And on Monday from 10 to 4, we could experience 60-mile-an-hour winds in the low country, and maybe even more with that storm surge, again, of 4 to 6 feet. And that's 4 to 6 feet above dry ground, which is a lot of water. And that water is not just stationary, it's moving at a high rate of speed. So it's something that we do need to get out of the way of. President Trump called me this morning. He was calling from Camp David. I thanked him for approving our request for federal disaster assistance, which was done in just a few hours, a few days ago. He said he's with us. He assured me that he was willing to do anything that we needed to help the people of South Carolina. As for evacuations, the state and local law enforcement officers, along with the armed National Guardsmen, will be patrolling the evacuated barrier islands. We're not going to leave those evacuated barrier islands open to thieves and people who would want to go in to cause trouble. So let me make it perfectly clear. We have absolutely no tolerance for those who would try to take advantage of this storm for any sort of personal gain or thievery. Looters, thieves, mischief makers of any kind will be arrested on site. We'll have personnel there, armed personnel there, and they will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We don't want any of that to happen in South Carolina. State parks, the Hunting Island State Park and Edisto Beach State Park have been closed indefinitely for the evacuations. Charlestown Landing in Charleston will be closed today in anticipation of the possible flooding. School and government closings. As you know, there are numerous school and government closings set for Monday. 20 counties have school districts that will close on Monday. That is up to them to decide. 11 county governments will be closed on Monday. There may be more, and that can be, the list can be found at scmd.org. Fuel. We touched on this yesterday. The big stations are okay. They have contracts to have fuel brought to them. The others have fuel brought to them when it is available. But we do have some shortages. We do have some outages, but there's always fuel. If there's not at this exit, at the other station at this particular exit, whatever exit that may be, just go to the next one. You'll be able to have fuel. So we're not running out of fuel. And that's my report for right now. And we'll proceed on with Kim Stinson, Director of Emergency Management Division. Stinson.
Thank you, Governor. Here at the State Emergency Operations Center, our two priorities right now. Number one is evacuation and sheltering operations, as the Governor talked about. Also for planning for response operations and damage assessment over the next several days. And we're prepared to help the counties with their damage assessment should they need it. We have EMD personnel that are embedded in Beaufort, Charleston, Colleton, and Jasper to coordinate operations as we proceed. We have other personnel on standby as needed. We're actively supporting county requests for support, ranging from generators to sandbags. We've had 131 requests so far, and we've completed, or they're actively in operation right now, 110 of those requests. We've got 18 county emergency operations center that are currently operational in some form. Also remind citizens to call our emergency hotline if you have questions, and that's at 1-866-246-0133, and it's also on that board up there. And as the Governor said, go to scemd.org for disaster information, and besides the closings, there's a lot of other good information and links to other services. Sir?
Thank you. General Livingston. National Guard.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor mentioned, we are now in position to support our partner agencies and the counties with search and rescue, evacuation, and security operations pre-storm, post-storm, with those three operations, along with route clearance operations with South Carolina DOT. You're also seeing some military movement through South Carolina to support our partners down in Georgia and Florida. We have quite a few helicopters that are stopping here in South Carolina, being refueled and headed down along with the military convoys. We are sending an infantry battalion along with a transportation company, about 650 troops at this point, to assist our partners down in Florida. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. SLED, Chief Keel.
As the governor said, there will be no tolerance for folks trying to take advantage of those areas that have been evacuated. We have 121 state police officers and National Guardsmen that are patrolling those areas with local law enforcement. Those patrols in those areas will continue until a re-entry, until the folks who left those areas are able to come back to them. So again, we want to make sure to send that warning out to anybody trying to take advantage of those individuals who's left. Those patrols will be there, and they will be keeping an eye on your property and security of those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Secretary Hall, Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Governor. Traffic is flowing very well across the state today. Most of our traffic levels have returned to pre-storm conditions, if not actually lower than normal traffic volumes. The only exception to that is I-20 coming in from the Augusta area. We are seeing some elevated numbers on I-20, but even with those numbers, it's flowing very well. The US 17 at the Georgia border, that bridge has been closed by Georgia DOT as part of their normal storm protocol due to the winds in the area. We're expecting to potentially have to close some of the movable bridges along the coast sometime today once the winds achieve 25 miles per hour or more sustained. We're keeping an eye on the high-level bridges. That would be the Ravenel Bridge and some others along the coast. And decisions will be made if and when to close those bridges in coordination with local governments. We urge caution driving across the state today with these wind gusts that are coming through the area just due to the unpredictability of it. So please be careful on the highways.
Thank you. Director Smith, Public Safety.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. We have shifted from our lane reversal and evacuation efforts, and now we have asked the National Guard to maintain those 15 records because we will need those for quick clearance for the return of the out-of-state travelers. Also, we're prepared to assist SLED and ESF-13 with recovery, response, and security mission efforts should those calls come to our request. And thirdly, as stated earlier, we are preparing for an influx of traffic returning back to the various locations. We've seen an increase in traffic from Georgia and Florida. We were sure that the same out-of-state travelers that we saw pre-landfall, more likely we would see those same travelers post-landfall. So we are planning for that influx of traffic returning. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Director Smith. Director Alvin Taylor, DNR, please.
Thank you, Governor. As with all other state law enforcement, we're assisting ESF-13 and SLED for security missions, especially in our coastal region. We're also monitoring rainfall during this period in case we have unusual or high amounts of rain in some areas, so we can monitor our rivers for any possibility of flood, so we can assist in those areas with our officers. We are not expecting that, but we're monitoring it. We're also very busy on the coast with looking at the surge models and make sure that any way we can help with our boating capacity in our area, that we can help citizens there. We'll also be patrolling the Berry Islands by boat, by water, and also providing last-minute evacuation where possible. That's all I have, Governor.
Thank you. Thank you. Jonathan Jones, Fire Marshal, please.
Thank you, Governor. Our state's fire and rescue resources remain in a state of readiness and are leaning forward and ready to respond to any requests for assistance locally. We have not received any requests for assistance from local jurisdictions. I've personally spoken with several fire chiefs from coastal and low-lying areas to ensure that they have no unmet needs. Once our communities are in the clear, we will be assessing our ability to respond and assist our neighbors in Georgia and Florida with search and rescue assets. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Alan Wilson, Attorney General.
Relatively pleased as it relates to price gouging. To date, we have 250 complaints of price gouging in the state that have been logged with our office. That is considerably less than in previous disasters and evacuations. 85% still remains with fuel, with about the last 10% being water and the remainder being lodging and other materiel. If you witness something you believe to be price gouging, you can contact our office at scag.gov, and you can fill out a form there, or you can email us at pricegouging@scag.gov. If you don't have internet or don't have the ability to get to it, you can call 803-737-3953. All of these will be investigated after the event has occurred and our partner or neighboring states have gone through this event. We will be investigating these after this week, but probably not during the event. Thank you.
Thank you. A few others. Commissioner of Agriculture.
Thank you, Governor. I'll
Yes,
give
sir.
two reports, one on behalf of agriculture. This is September, thank goodness it's not October, as we've gone through these rain events before. Right at the heart of harvest season has been quite impactful. Right now, farmers are working hard to get those crops out of the field that are ready, and are very appreciative of the waiver to allow the oversized and overweight loads to move to market. That's very helpful. Farmers have been through this before, so our drainage and whatnot that farmers have prepared in their fields should allow for the 6 to 8 inches of rain in parts of the state to be handled more easily. On the other side, to help